I remember you on with us last year, right?
I
For a period of
was.
time. Yeah,
I was.
and how would you compare, where you are with trading now to last year?
Yeah. So I think last year, like I had mentioned, it was all about, hey, can you follow the rule set? I was still new enough to it that I didn't fully understand why things were happening and the how. And so this year I told myself, well, kind of dive into that subjective pool, start to kind of increase the amount of subjectivity that I'm adding to my trades, but still me understanding that I'm not at a level where I can just jump full on in. I have to still kind of understand the guidelines and go with the guidelines. And so today, this year was all about kind of the yin and the yang between following those guidelines that I had built up the first year or so, and then starting to dabble a little bit with the subjectivity side. So it was, like we all know, it was a bit of a challenging year for some. For me, it was building up a better toolkit. We always talk about this, right? You can't just focus on one trade and use that forever. They all have their weaknesses. You need to kind of build up this little toolkit so that you can react and be adaptive to the market. And my toolkit was a lot of your trades, but to be completely honest, I was lacking in, some of my questions that you've seen in the community have been, how does a bearish vertical work? How does a bullish vertical work? When do you put it on? How long do you put it on for? All of those little nuances, I think, come with practice, and it's not just a matter of putting them down, but there's certain scenarios for all of that stuff. So I had to be humbled this year. This wasn't a year where I hit it out of the park. I had to tell myself that I can be a bit of a perfectionist and have high ideals for myself, just having been a very competitive athlete most of my life. And I had to say to myself, well, you know what, this is going to be another foundational year. You need to kind of understand how these smaller little pieces work, and you're not going to hit a home run every time. There's going to be small little struggles. And so I think humbling is kind of the theme for this year for me.
I think that was probably the case for a lot of people. We had an environment change this year we've had environment changes over the last several years, but the market's always been up. And other than a very short period of time when COVID hit, which has lasted like 30 days, the market's been up. It's been uptrending, and this would be true if you were going all the way back to 2005, 2006. We've had our brief down moves, but overall the market's been, every single year essentially, the market's just about been up. And this year is the first year it's been down. So for a lot of traders, because of the way they trade, their strategies are bullish bias.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the first time we've had a substantial down move, and it's been a volatile down move. And it's really the first time we've seen this market, or a lot of us have seen this type of a market ever since we've been trading. And there's no back testing data because we've never been in this type of market. So it's good to understand how to be adaptable. And you head in the right direction. So it's not surprising that some people had challenges, though, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's, like I said, right, the learning that I had this year was all of these little kind of baby steps. I always thought, one of your questions was, have you had any aha moments this year? And
yes,
while I've had little wins here and there, and I've had, some, a couple high percentage wins, I think to myself, I had to, in a way, like I said, not try to hit a home run every single time. I'm a father. I've got a full-time job that's fairly demanding and stressful. And, the first year I was every night practicing those strategies, putting in the hours. We moved this year. There was a lot of craziness that went on in my life, and I had to sometimes put my life a little bit further ahead than trading. And so I had to tell myself, every little step, or every time I'm chatting in the community, asking questions, putting on little live trades, that I'm slowly becoming a little bit more experienced. And if I can sometimes just get a % better, then that's a step in the right direction. And it doesn't have to be these massive gains and these massive changes that are occurring. So again, it was kind of foundational for me this year, and just small steps, I guess you could say.
That's good. That's what trading is. It's a process to learn, and a lot of people who come into trading have been relatively successful in their careers, and maybe things have come easy to them, and they think trading is just going to be this easy thing, because you don't have to be smart to trade well. And I can say that for sure, you don't have to be smart to trade well. But just because you're smart doesn't mean you're going to do well. So,
Yeah.
you have to realize that it's going to be a bit of an effort. And you've done a great job with that. So
Thank you.